Alright folks, today we're going to do oxidation and reduction half reactions. Alright, remember that oxidation is the gain of electrons and reduction is the loss of electrons. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this thing down, and I'm going to do the first one, I'm going to do it the long way, and then I'm going to break things down into, and I'm just going to give you answers. Right? When you look at what we have here, we have 2H2, which is a gas, plus O2, and it's becoming water, but when you think about this, this actually is broken down into pieces. This is, this is really, if we think about it, H plus OH, right? It's a positive and a negative thing. It's a hydroxide ion and a hydronium ion, or an H plus ion, actually. So what we're going to do is, and we've got two of them, so we have two H plus ions, and we have two hydroxide ions. Right? Well, what happened? Sorry, two hydroxide ions, which are negative. And what happened? We have electrons that have moved. Right? So let's think about what's happened if I just track these guys. We actually have four hydrogens over here. If we just look at the hydrogens, what's actually happened? Well, we have two H2s, which have become four H pluses. Well, when it became an H plus, what happened? We lost an electron here. Right? So, in fact, we lost four of them. Right? So that essentially is what's going on with hydrogen, and hydrogen is losing electrons, so that's being oxidized. Well, you'll notice that I have 2 and a 4 and a 4 here, so I can reduce that. So I can say H2 becomes 2H plus 2 electrons. Right, so this is my oxidation half reaction. All right. Now my reduction half reaction is similar because here I have O2, and O2 is becoming 2O with each one having a 2 minus charge. Well, when it has a 2 minus charge, what actually happened? Well, to get a 2 minus charge, it had to gain electrons, right? So really what had to happen was O2 had to gain electrons. Well, how many electrons did we have to gain? Well, each oxygen has a 2 minus charge. So that's 2 electrons, but I've got 2 of them, so that's a total of 4 electrons. So I have 4 electrons that I'm gaining, and that is giving me my 2O with my 2 negative charges. So, just like up here, we lost 4 electrons down here. This is our reduction half. We gained 4 electrons. And you want to reduce these things to their lowest whole number ratio, which is what I had to do here with my oxidation half. I didn't have to worry about that with my reduction half. Right, that kind of gives you a sense of what oxidation reactions are. Just kind of refresh your memory before we get into the rest of these. All right, so what's happening? Well, sulfur is, this thing is becoming negative, this thing is positive, so sulfur's losing, so let's go ahead and do that. Our oxidation half reaction is that we have S8, and it's becoming 8 sulfurs. Now what kind of charge do these sulfurs have? Well, we probably have to figure that out. So let's see. If each oxygen takes on a -2 charge, then, and we have 1 sulfur, and they have to balance. We got 3 of these, which have a -2 charge. That would give this entire thing over here a -6 charge, which means that sulfur, believe it or not, has to have a +6 charge. That sounds really strange. So I have 8 sulfurs, each of which has a +6 charge. So that tells me that 6 times 8 is 48. That's 48 electrons. So when those electrons came off, there were 48 electrons that came off. That's my oxidation half reaction. Well, what's my reduction half reaction? Well, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as a whole thing, and then I'm going to break it down. I'm going to reduce it. I have 12 O2s, and they're going to have to gain some electrons. In fact, each one is a -2, and there are 12 of them, so that's 24. So I have to gain 24 electrons plus 24 electrons. That's not right. I've got 12 O2s. That's 24 oxygens. That's 48 electrons. I have to gain 48 electrons to become 8. Actually, it's not becoming 8. It's 8 n times 3. So I have 24 O's with a negative 2 charge, which would in fact take 48 electrons. Right? Well, you'll notice each one of these things is divisible by 12 down here. So this becomes O2 plus, I divided by 12, that's 48, so that becomes 4 electrons, becomes, I divide this by 12, 2 O's with a minus 2. That's oxygen, and that's a 2. Right? So 2 O's, each one with a minus 2. So this is really my reduction half reaction because it has to be in lowest terms. All right, let's look at number 3. Zinc is becoming positive, so zinc is losing. So my oxidation half is that zinc becomes zinc, and zinc has a 2 plus charge, and it gave off 2 electrons. Now where are those electrons going? Those electrons are going to hydrogen, and specifically they're going to my 2 H pluses, which become, sorry, my bad, we have to add 2 electrons to it, and those 2 electrons are going to hydrogen to become H2. So that's my reduction half reaction. Right, how about number 4? Well, sodium is going from no charge to being positive. So that tells me that, and the H, remember this is really HOH. So this is plus, and this thing over here is minus. So my sodium is becoming positive, so it's losing, so that's my oxidation half. So sodium is losing, so it becomes sodium with a positive charge plus 1 electron. Now you realize I've got 2 sodiums on the left and 2 sodiums on the right, but because I have 2, I can just break it down into 1 of each. I'm just already reducing without going through that extra step. So what's being reduced? Well, I've got water that's being reduced, but it's H plus, and it's gaining an electron, and it's becoming H over here, but it's really becoming H2, so that means I need 2 hydrogens on the left and 2 electrons on the left to make that happen. So that's my reduction half reaction. Okay, how about this one? We have hydrogen, which is positive, which is going to no charge. So that is gaining. And what's losing? Well, chlorine's a spectator, so aluminum must be losing. So aluminum is going from no charge to being positive. So let's do my oxidation half reaction first. And you'll notice I have 2 aluminums on the left and 2 on the right, so I'm just going to do it for 1 aluminum. And it lost electrons. So it's becoming aluminum with a 3 plus charge, and it has 3 electrons, then it's giving away. Where are those electrons going? Well, those electrons are going to hydrogen, and you'll notice that I'm coming up with H2 over here. To be able to come up with H2, I need 2 hydrogens. They both have a positive charge, and I have to add in 2 electrons to end up with H2. So that's my reduction half reaction because it's gaining. Almost done, folks. So iron here is becoming positive, oxygen is becoming negative, so iron is losing. So let's see, I've got 4 irons, I've got 2 irons, so let's do 2 irons. No, because those are going to be each individual, so we're just going to do 1 iron. Fe, and we said we're losing an electron, so it's becoming Fe. What kind of charge does it have? It has a 3 plus charge, because oxygen has a 2 minus charge. So it has a 3 plus charge. It has a 3 plus charge. What did it do? Well, it had to give up 3 electrons to have a 3 plus charge. So what about oxygen? Because oxygen is the other half of this. That's your reduction half. O2 is becoming, nope, O2 we have to add electrons. How many electrons do we have to add? We actually have to add 4 electrons because that's going to produce 2 oxygens with a negative 2 charge. So we had to gain 4 electrons to make that happen. That's our reduction half. Right, how about this one? Well, again, we've got Fe2O3, and we're coming up with Fe, so we're going to take Fe, which has a positive 3 charge. We have to add 3 electrons to it. 3 electrons to it, and that's going to become Fe. And this is our reduction part because it's gaining. So what's our oxidized part? What's losing? Well, that's got to be hydrogen. So we're going from H2, and it's becoming 2H plus how many electrons? Sure, 2 electrons, plus 2 electrons. All right, so that's our oxidation half. All right, how about potassium and bromine? Well, it's going to positive negative, so the potassium is losing. So our oxidation half is K is becoming K plus 1 electron. And bromine is doing just the reverse. Bromine is adding, but we have Br2, so that means it has to add, and it has to add 2 electrons, because each one has a -1 charge, when it ends up on the right, which is 2 Br with a minus charge. Okay, that's it. If you have questions, please see us in class. We'll be happy to answer them. And have a great day. Bye-bye.